Well, a good morning to you, Desiree. We are outside Wynberg Magistrate's Court. This is where two students from UCT will be making their appearance today after they were detained on Friday. We understand that there was a standoff and clashes with the police that has led to these students to be arrested. So today they will be making their first time court appearance. We are not expecting much from this court case. Obviously, most probably it will be a postponement. They will be read their rights. They will be given details of their court cases, to what charges they are facing, and also their legal rights and recourse that they have if they do have their own legal representative, or they will be using the state legal resources. And then there will be a postponement for them to come once again. But the main crux of the story here is the students complaining or having concerns regarding the socio-economic conditions in the country. They want to be allowed to register without having to pay those fee blocks. So that is the standpoint. They've been at loggerheads with the university and they have not been able to try and resolve that particular matter. But I will be speaking to some of the student leaders. I'll start with the SRC president, Hlengiwe Dube, at UCT, to talk to us. On Friday, you've been up and down after the students were arrested. Talk to us about where did you go and what happened on Friday.
Thank you for coming here to stand with us. So on Friday, the two students were wrongfully detained outside of Kramer, which is on UCT Middle Campus, and they were taken to a police station in the Rondebosch area, to which then apparently, because they felt that there was a threat from students, they moved them here to Wynberg, which was incorrect because no students were heading to that police station. It was myself and my colleague here, and with the DSA representatives from UCT. And then after that, we were told to go all the way to Muizenberg, just to come back here to be disappointed to say, no, the students will remain within the detention services here. And it was concluded even on that day that the two students were wrongfully detained. So that's where we're currently standing.
Do we know what charges they are facing at this time?
At this stage, they are in contempt of order. That's the charge that is there, which is, of course, would not make sense because the interdict was not issued to these students. So that's where the charge of wrongful detention comes from.
One of the crux of this matter is the protest regarding the lifting of the fee blocks. We understand UCT issued an announcement, a memo to say there won't be lifting the fee blocks. Students, processes must go accordingly. So what is your take on that?
So, of course, students are frustrated and disappointed at the outcome, having the understanding that the majority of the students that are affected by fee blocks are marginalized students. So they are disappointed, and luckily there's a mediation process in place that is scheduled to take place today, but there's an attempt to now reschedule that mediation process to help reach a conclusion on the issue of the fee block policy. So we're just trying to constantly engage with management, and the directive was given by council that a mediation process should take place today. So we hope that today it will be concluded and we can finally have not only the two students that were wrongfully detained out, but we can finally have our institution at rest and students can actually continue with their academics.
I understand you've been trying to engage the higher education department. So who is involved in that mediation intervention?
So unfortunately, the Department of Higher Education has not responded to our call to them. We don't understand why, because it's not only coming now from the students, but even the Workers' Unions Alliance, because we had formed an alliance on campus, and because the workers have also understood, the Workers' Union, have also understood the call and the cries of the students. So unfortunately, no, the Department of Higher Education has not responded.
So who is it that mediation?
The mediation between the university and the students. It will be SRC, the composition is the SRC, as well as the executive management and the chair of council, and then two mediators. So one mediator from the executive side and one mediator from the SRC.
There are also other students in solidarity. We do have also a student leaders organization who is here. Ma'am, if you may introduce yourself and tell us what is the importance of you standing in solidarity and coming to support the students, and also what are you calling for today?
Greetings to everyone. My name is Yanganani Sibeko. I'm an SRC member, but also the EFFSC Provincial Deputy Secretary in the Western Cape. So currently, as we have multiple student organizations, being the EFF, being PASMA, etc., that are joining hand in hand in terms of what's happening in the institution. Right now, students, I think it's important that we bring to light that academia is continuing as per usual, even though these are abnormal circumstances that we're currently operating in. It's week 6 under the acting Vice Chancellor of Sue Harrison, and she has capacity to hold assessments, etc., but she's continuing with academia. She's continuing with the exclusion of not only then those that are impacted by the fee block, but also those that are protesting as well in the interim. Yes, so that's the stance UCT is taking against us marginalized. So it's important that as children of Azania, we come together and we put an end to this.
We understand at this stage there are over 7,000 students that are affected. What is the current situation with those students? Where are they? And we also understand the issue of fee blocks, and if you are unable to register, it also has ripple effects on the housing accommodation issue. Can you take us into confidence with that?
So currently the SRC as well as the student organizations were faced with an accommodation crisis where our students were being kicked out of residences due to the fee block matter. We have been able to negotiate and stand firm as the SRC that we're not going to let any student be left behind. We unwavered and were able to secure accommodation for students at least until the council decision has been made, or at least mediation processes have completed currently. So we have been housing students, but we also have been housing students in the residences of the university. We also have been giving donations to students, so in terms of food, sanitary towels, etc. And we'd actually like to call on South Africans, if you have anything to donate to us, please reach out to the SRC page. At Instagram is at UCT_SRC, and then also you feel free to email srcpgchair@uct.ac.za as well. Thank you.
Those are the platforms for people who want to intervene and also pledge their support. Thank you. The last time we spoke to you, you said you were going to meet in a council meeting. That was during the time you were blockading the university. What came out of that? Because the next thing we know, that we saw that memo.
Yes, so that council meeting took place again on the 11th of March, which is this past Saturday, and the conclusion was a mediation process. So what we had demanded and requested, appealing to the council members, was the immediate intervention of the 2 students who were wrongfully detained, as well as the halting of the academic year, because we did issue out a state of emergency, as well as for the not only fee blocks to be lifted, but the interdict to be removed, because this is a consequence, this is an effect of it. Do you know what I mean? A lot of students were hurt, a lot of students were harmed. 2 students were admitted into hospital, 2 students had to spend the weekend in jail. So yes, that's what we had made, and it was concluded and ruled that a mediation process should be taken place, to which we had argued to show that the interdict, so normally in usual circumstances the interdict is only issued when all resources and avenues have been explored, and now the fact that a mediation process is now in place, it shows that the interdict was put in place to now corner students and create a conflict-induced environment. So we did call that out, but it was ruled that a mediation process is appropriate, and which was scheduled to take place today. But we fear that there's an attempt to now reschedule it for tomorrow, which now prolongs this entire fight again.
So if there are over 7,000 students which are affected, obviously we're going to be engaging. There will be concessions that are going to be made there. Is there anything you are willing to settle on, or because each and every student rights to education is important, what are you going to be calling for in those meetings?
So we have called for academic concessions to be made, but there hasn't been any proof, or rather to show us that those will be applied to students, because as I've said, we've not only called for the academic halting of the academic calendar, apologies, but also that concessions be made, academic concessions be made, because also a lot of students have been traumatized from the events of Friday. But the law faculty has now decided to just move lectures online, so it does show that unfortunately Senate and the academic structure is not necessarily assisting the situation.
What do you say to the university when it says it also has a huge debts of the student, historical debts that runs into hundreds of millions? They are also facing financial constraints from the side of the students who also need this education as well. How do you deliberate around those issues of the students?
So we have called for an aggressive funding initiative to take place collaboratively with the SRC as well as the executive members, because we strongly believe with the resources made available to the institution, as well as the individuals and resources available to the student body, because we've asked for donations. We also know who to ask, where to ask. So if we have an aggressive approach to have a funding initiative collaboratively, we can definitely find ways to mitigate the issues of the deficit that the university faces, as well as the historical debt that faces many students within the institution.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, SRC President Hlengi Wedube speaking to us, with also a student leader of the EFF, talking to us, bring up to speed about the processes that are happening currently at UCT. We understand that today they are supposed to sit in a mediation process to try and resolve this matter, as we understand that throughout South Africa it is engulfed by this problem of students who cannot pay the fees so that they can go back to school. This also it starts from the issue of the socio-economic conditions in the country, the worsening and the economic downturn as a result of the huge unemployment that is also engulfing the country as well. So they are hoping that in those mediation processes at the university, they will be able to come up to some conclusion. The university, in its defense, has also said that they are facing huge financial constraints and debts, historical debts that are owed to them by the students, but the students are calling for an aggressive initiative funding in order to be able to curb this debt collaboratively from all those who are affected, to try and make sure that each and every student does get that particular human right to be afforded a quality, a higher education at UCT. So today we will be inside the court. We understand that the court proceedings might start at 11. Two students were also protesting for education, were detained by the police at the time. The police, of course, is saying that the students were attacking them. So we will hear from this court case what will come out of it. But it is the situation here at UCT. We'll be following that. We will be following as to what will come out of that mediation process as well. From myself, Atule Joka, and my colleague Oratile Tlhoaele, as we show you the outside of this magistrate court here, which these students will be appearing in. Back to you, studio.